Component TV is here, and it may make the set you're watching now as obsolete as an old hi-fi.
Welcome.
Okay, so today we're going to go over the PXE boot process. I wanted to do that before we went any further with this series, where we're going to set up a nice PXE boot menu where we can boot over the network and install operating systems. We can run live operating systems that would typically be used like in a classroom setting where you wanted the students to be able to access an operating system like Linux, for instance, and they could mess up whatever they wanted to, and when you rebooted and you reloaded the image from the server, there wouldn't be any permanent changes. So they could do anything they want. They could delete files, they could mess something up, and it would just revert back to the way it used to be. And that's just one example of what you can do with it. But today we're going to talk about just the PXE network boot process. I think you guys should understand that if you don't already understand it before we move further, so you can see the value in actually doing this and setting it all up. So here you can see a diagram I've put together, and we have our Linux server right here that we've set up. And in my case, I'm running Slackware, but you can run other Linux distributions if you want. And I just happen to set my server address to 192.168.1.30. Of course, you can set it to whatever you want to. And we have a router here. We have a network switch that ties all of our clients together. And there's a couple things you need for PXE to work. You obviously need a server, and then we have that. And we have syslinux on it. We have a TFTP service, which is Trivial File Transfer Protocol, and that's needed to pull this network boot file over the network to the client so it can boot. We have a DHCP server, which is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and basically that's used every day. You don't see it, but it's there. If you've been to McDonald's or the airport or your friend's house and you connect to their Wi-Fi or whatever, it just works. It doesn't have an IP address. Otherwise, you would have to ask your friend, hey, do you have the IP address? And then they would have to give you an IP address like this number here. And then you'd have to go on your phone and configure it and plug in the settings. So to make it a lot easier, they came out with DHCP, which automatically does it. It does it dynamically, so it makes it much easier. So in my case, I have a DHCP server, and a lot of times that's in your router. It's already in there, so you don't have to configure that. And I'm handing out a range. There's typically a pool of addresses it'll hand out, and you can set up what range you want. Typically addresses will go up to 255. We're handing out addresses anywhere from 1.50 to 1.100. So what happens is the client, when you power it on, it's going to reach out through the switch, and it's going to go to the router, and it's going to say, hey, I need an IP address. Can you give me an IP address? And the router says, sure. And it looks at its pool, and if it looks at what's being used already, because there is a table of addresses that it's already using. And let's say 52 was being used, it would hand you 53. So you would get 192.168.1.53. So it would go through the router to the switch. It would go back to the client, and it would set that up for you. The client would grab that information, your gateway address, and then it would just work. So if you can imagine a mail delivery person, if they didn't have addresses, they wouldn't know where to deliver the mail to. Well, packets work the same way with networking. It needs to know an address, so it needs to know where the packets are going to and from. So that's how DHCP works. Now with DHCP, there are other options that we just don't see. There's tons of other options in there. Two of these options we need for PXE booting, and that's option 66, which when we request that and we program it properly in the router, option 66 is the IP address of the PXE server. So in this case, the IP address would be 192.168.1.30. So the client goes out through the switch, through the router, and it says, hey, I need an IP address. And since we have these options programmed in here, it's going to take option 66 along with the IP that it gives the client, and it's going to pass it through the network switch, through the router, and back to the client. And also option 67, which is the network boot file or network boot program, and that's what actually gets this machine to start booting. And in this case, we're running a file from syslinux called PXE Linux.0, which we have in a folder or a directory called tftp boot/BIOS, which is set up on the server here. So that's a directory that's on this server. And so what we're doing is we're telling this client where to find that network boot file. So if you program these and set these up, they're just fields. If you set them up properly, now your client knows when you set your boot order in your BIOS or UEFI, you're going to set it to PXE. And if you looked in your BIOS right now or UEFI, you would see an option, a boot option in there for PXE, and that's your network card. So the network card gets that information. Now it knows, it goes over to the server here into this folder, and it grabs that PXE Linux.0. Now if you're using UEFI, you would want to use like an iPXE.efi for UEFI booting. And so I was originally using my MikroTik router to hand out this information here, but it only allows you to do option 66 and 67. There's only one option. So I would have to go, if I wanted to boot a UEFI system, I'd have to go in here and change the boot file in here. But what I'm doing now is I'm using DHCP on the Linux server itself, which is a little more advanced, and it will actually recognize automatically if the machine is a BIOS machine or if it's a UEFI machine. And we're going to get to that later in the video when I set up the DHCP on this Slackware server. So it'll automatically sense what type of machine it is, and it will hand out the appropriate boot file. So that's the basics on PXE booting. Now you can set up a HTTP server as well for larger files. It's a lot faster. We have network file system, or there's Samba. In my examples in this series, I'm going to be using a little bit of HTTP, a little bit of NFS, and of course we have our TFTP service that's running on the server. So that's the basics on PXE booting. I hope you guys understand it a little bit better now if you didn't before. It's very powerful. You could use it to push images. For instance, if you did DHCP and each one of these clients were turned on at the same time, they could simultaneously connect and pull images. If you were to image an entire classroom, it's used in corporate environments. You could do so many things with it. Like I said, you can run operating systems on it, and in my case I have several. I have Ubuntu, I have Linux Mint, Alpine Linux. All of them are available to me from any client I have in the house. And remember, these are diskless stations. They don't even have to have hard drives or SSDs in them. This is basically just running entirely in the computer's memory. So any PC that you have, as long as you set up the BIOS or UEFI to boot from the network card, and most systems have that ability, it will go ahead and pull that operating system over. And I'm going to just show you an example here of the menu that I made that we're going to construct together later on in the video in the series, and just show you the process of the DHCP booting from a client perspective. Okay, so before we move any further and I show you the client side of it, I just wanted to show you the server side of it. Now this is my server I've already have set up. I haven't touched the new one that we just installed Slackware on. We're going to go through that together probably in the next series, in the next video. But I just wanted to show you here, if we go into the TFTP boot folder, go into BIOS and Sys Linux, you can see here that we have our PXE Linux.0 file. This is the file that I pointed out on the chart that we've put into the DHCP server that it's going to search for. And let me quickly show you the DHCPD, the DHCP comp file. And you can see here, here's the DHCP server configuration file. And basically this is how you would set it up to match a client depending on whether it was a BIOS machine or whether it was a UEFI machine. That's what I'm doing right here. As I mentioned in the previous clip, I was using my router to do it, but it only allowed me to put one entry at a time in. With this method here, you can see if it's checking the architecture of the machine, and we're going to that 1.30 address, and in this case it's a BIOS client, so it's going to automatically set the boot file to the PXE Linux.0. Now if it's a UEFI machine, if the architecture is this number here, it's still going to use the same server, but it's going to go to a totally different directory and load the iPXE.efi instead. And I'll show you that here. If we go to tftp boot EFI, you can see here we have the iPXE.efi right here. So that's the network boot program if it's a UEFI machine. So that's the basics of that. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what we're going to get into later. So now I'm going to show you the client side. Okay, so we're on our Dell Weiss 5060 thin client. Really doesn't have an SSD or a hard drive. It's just operating from memory. We're going to go into the BIOS. This is just an example before we get into later on, I would say in the next video, in setting this all up on our newly installed Slackware Linux machine we did in the first episode. So the password here is Fireport if you have one of these machines. And we're going to just go into the BIOS and we're going to set it, and you can get into your BIOS with delete, F1, escape. It really depends on your machine. And I'm going to go into the boot order, and you can see here how we have PXE LAN. And I'm going to hit Shift and plus, and I'm going to move that up to the top. And I'm also going to set my machine to do the legacy mode. Now you can still do this on a lot of the newer machines, so that's why we're using the Sys Linux, the BIOS mode. And we are going to do the UEFI as well later, but for now I'm using legacy. But you can still use legacy. Most systems nowadays will have a CSM mode, or it'll be legacy. I'm going to set it to legacy. And now we're just going to hit exit saving changes, and we should come up. It's going to go out and get the DHCP, which is going to have that option 66, which is going to tell it my server is 192.168.1.30, and it's also going to grab that PXE Linux.0 file because that's option 67, as I pointed out on the chart. And we should come up with a nice menu that we've set up on the server. So we'll go ahead and restart here. And you should notice in the beginning that it's going to start DHCP, and it's going to be asking right here, it's going to be asking for a IP address. So it's going out and asking for it. And you can see it grabbed it very quickly, and we're at this nice menu here. This is coming from the server, from the Linux server. And I have a bunch of options in here. Let's try something fun. Let's try, we'll try to run Linux Mint Live. These are all things that I set up and I can show you later on the settings needed to set these things up. But I even have a DOS 622 portion of it where I have Windows 3.1 in there. I have Doom and Quake and different games in there. That's a whole different episode though. We'll deal with that later. But let's try run Linux Mint. You can see it's loading VM Linux, the Linux kernel from the server, the initRD, and depending on the speed of your server, it's going to take longer. I'm only running my server on a Weiss 5010 thin client, which is fine for me, but those dots would be moving a lot faster if it was a faster system. So you can see here it's pulled over the kernel and it's starting to boot, and this is entirely from the server, and it's running in memory on the client machine. So basically what's happened is it's handed over control to the kernel, so we had to use an IP equals DHCP in the menu option, and again I'll show you that later, because it has to grab another IP address. It has to contact the DHCP again. You can see it's continuing to boot up here. We're almost to a desktop here. Here we have our mouse going, and there we have Linux Mint, and we do have the option to install it if we want to. That's the nice thing about the PXE. You can install it if you want to. I just like using it live. You can see we have the task manager. Let's take a look at that. We're using about 14% of the RAM. Not too bad. We'll go ahead and load up Firefox. You can see that the internet works on it. Now again, this isn't persistent, so I have to do this each time. I just have to skip. So this is excellent for incognito browsing as well, because when I reboot this system, there's no history. There's nothing in here. It's all in memory. So you can see there that it's working just fine. So that's just a quick example of the PXE booting. We're going to get into it more in the next episode, but I wanted to give you guys some incentive, if you haven't done this before, to kind of see what you can do with it. You can do some neat stuff with it. So we're going to continue in the next video with actually setting up the server and setting it all up. So I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye.